Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to my live session, and it's going to be about Python fundamentals for data science. And I hope you can come along, and then we all move together. So quickly, let's go. If you have been following DataQuest lately, you would realize that there are like a number of missions that has to be completed according to our daily learning schedule. And what I've decided is like we could do some revision together with other people that have also been studying along this DataQuest course, and then we can learn together. So please just try to join this session and let us do it together. So I'll be starting for all the way from the beginning. I think from step 1. So of course I will give something very like generic, but of course everything is kind of like similar. And let's see how many of the missions we can do today. So as you can see here, the title of the stream, it's about Python fundamentals for data science. And thank you for joining, and let's get to business. So today we'll be discussing a couple of important, I'll bring this here, we're discussing a couple of important Python fundamentals, ranging from the installation, setting up your computer using Jupyter Notebook, and doing some basic thing with Python. And of course, hopefully let's see how much we can do for today before we actually get to this part of getting to work with some data sets. And let's just see. So I'm going to make my screen to be a little bit bigger, maybe 150 is okay. So now let's get to business. So normally what do you do at the beginning if you want to start with Python, like as a really fresh mind? It's very easy. What do? You just go to Google, you said install Python 3, of course there's Python 2, there's Python 3, and depending on your operating system, if it is Windows or if it is Ubuntu, if it is Mac, you just put it there. Just say install Python. Normally I think automatically your computer, the website will detect the operating system for your computer, and there you can download it. So you download it, you install it, and then just follow, for example, Windows, Linux, and everything. It's very easy to download. And after you have downloaded this, of course you can easily launch it and start typing and start working with Python. I've done it before, so I will not do it again. And the latest is 3.81. So I will just pull up my terminal. If you're on Mac, so for example, if I come now, I bring my terminal here. I think I have to minimize this one in order to see it. Yeah. So I bring my terminal. Yes, that is there. Maybe I make it a little bit bigger so that you can see. So, and I just type Python. Once typing Python, as you can see, it gives you this Python 3.7. I think I should also update, but it's okay. And there you are. You can just start typing Python. For example, you can say 89 plus 1, for example. That gives you 90. Congratulations, you have just written your first Python code. But anyway, as we all know, Python has a very powerful programming language, and is mostly user friendly, especially for beginners, since it's very much, the syntax is very much close to natural language. And as you'll be seeing in this series, that we'll be using a lot of different syntaxes, and then how to write it, and less complicated syntax basically compared to all other programming languages. And Python is really powerful for so many applications in data science, in artificial intelligence, in scientific research, in so many things, web development, the Django framework. It's it's come across like it can be used in so many ways. I mean, it's a kind of universal application, and of course it's a high level language, programming language. So I think for a beginner it's very, very good. And of course nowadays Python is taking over in data science also, and is highly recommended. Of course you can also learn R, but I think for me personally I prefer to choose Python because of course I can use Python in so many other areas aside from data science. So let's get to business. So yeah, that is how to install Python. Now this is so cool. You can type whatever you want here. You can say print, you can say I want to print hello Python or something. You know, you can do whatever you want, but don't worry, I'll be explaining everything. But I mean, like for the purpose of development and to make your work really like easy and stuff. And before I forgot also, you can also have this IDLE, which is the interactive shell, which I think I deleted my own or something. Yeah, I don't have it again, but it's okay. You can also have it when you download this. You can also write a very basic programming, a Python program there is also okay. But for the purpose of, like as I said, professional, like real everyday work, you need extra little bit more softwares. And of course, for Python programming, a lot of people use different things depending on different application. Of course, there's PyCharm, there's JetBrains or something from. There's like different kind of there's different kind of soft. Of course, VS Code also. But for data science, I think the highly recommended one is actually Jupyter Notebook. So Jupyter Notebook is very powerful because it have a very, I will show you a very like cell-like encapsulated like a boundary where you can run individual code. Just go there and just like install either for Python, I mean either for Mac or for Windows or anything you have. You can also try it in the browser if you want, just like the Python shell and everything like that. So after you must have installed this, you just pull it up. But then maybe this is one way. Well, another way which I also highly recommend is for you to use Anaconda. If you install Anaconda, you can have a lot more. For example, you have Anaconda, and with the Anaconda, when you install it, I will pull it up now so that you can see from my own installation. Come on, what is wrong? Yeah, Anaconda. Yeah, I think I will put it to the, yeah, this is Anaconda. As you can see, we actually have Jupyter Lab, Jupyter Notebook itself. You have some visualization tools, even VS Code and so many ones. So you can launch them or you install them. For example, I can just launch this straight away from here. It's going to open a server, as you can see. And there you have it. Normally, I don't kind of like to launch my Jupyter Notebook like this because it just open it like from the root. As you can see, then you start going to different files and all this stuff. So I'll quickly explain my workflow. So just to quickly recap, you install Python, then you install Jupyter Notebook if you want, or you just install Anaconda, and it's come with so many other stuff as I've showed you, as I just showed you. So the choice is yours and the option is quite big. But I highly recommend you, of course, installing Anaconda. And your Anaconda will not work well without you having Python. So let's get to business. I'm not going to be installing, starting my Jupyter Notebook like that. I rather prefer to just go the other way, which I'm going to show you now. For example, I put my terminal as usual. And then let's assume I wanted to work here now. For example, I'll open a new one just to make my life pretty easy. I want to work on the desktop and I want to work here, for example, and live recording. Yes, refreshing. Now I'm here in this folder. What do? I just drag and drop. Now I'm there. Just enter. Then because I've installed my Jupyter notebook already as a command line tool, Jupyter notebook, I can easily just run it from terminal. I will show you also how to do that. Just tab. If you press tab, it's going to complete automatically. So if you go here, you said install Jupyter notebook terminal or something like this. So just type this conda install. If you want to use conda itself, if you want to use pip, which is Python packaging manager or something like this. So pip is actually Python improvement proposer, but they normally use it to install a lot of packages. For example, Python install Jupyter Lab or Jupyter Notebook, different kind of stuff that you want to install. Then after you have installed this, then of course you have it. So you can see this is for the notebook. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe I make this a little bit bigger. Yes, conda install C notebook, or you just say pip install notebook, and there you have it. So once you have all your devices or all your software and whatever set up, I know it's a lot of Azure here and there, and it's always like this, but the best part is that you just have to do this only once, I think so, and then you're good. Now as you can see, I have it, but I think it didn't run in the folder itself, so I will quickly check this again. I'm having some problem now with my terminal. Maybe I should just stop it. You just press Ctrl C to stop. I think it's also the same in Windows. Ctrl C. Nice. Yes. Y. Yes. And you put Y. So let me check the current work directory. Yes, I'm there. Then Jupyter notebook. Okay, good. So I'm there now, and of course there is nothing in the folder, but I can create one. I just say new Python, for example, new Python 3, and there you have it. So you can just, as we did the other time, 5 plus 2, but then how do you run this? You just, for example, I will still discuss how to use Jupyter Notebook, but you need the basic command now. Just press Shift and enter. Now that gives you 8. As you can see, you have input and output, and this cell is completely independent of this. Of course, if you have some variables here, which I'm going to be discussing, you can actually share all these variable states. So I think that is that about you setting up your computer for the purpose of starting to code, and just let's get to business. So as I was telling you, now I can decide to say 8 minus 2. No, don't put that. Yeah, and you just put Shift enter. Now you have it there. So yeah, Python, just like English language also, it has its own ways, it has its own grammar, it has its own clauses, statements, and all this kind of stuff. So what is the language, or what is the grammatical rules of Python? There are a lot of them, and then I will not be wasting your time so much. But as we learn, everything will be coming up all together. So it's very easy to get along. I mean, with the syntax, for example, you can just type some number. You can still do like this. This still works. Just type Shift and enter. Shift and enter. You see? But this is considered to be not to be very nice. So rather, instead of like writing like this, it's good to put a space if you want, of course. But I think this is easier to read. So now we'll be talking about basic syntax. For example, I can delete this and I just say print, for example, hello Python. Yes, I just say print word, shift, then enter. You can see now I have hello word there. And then this is like one of the very basic syntax. As you can see, it has a specific way it has to be. They said print, P-R-I-N-T. This P is small letter, is not capital letter. Of course, you open a bracket and you put some quotation and some string and another string, and you just close it. So this is what we like consider as a syntax because it follows a specific rule. For example, if I should change this to be capital P and I run it, you see something is happening. This is some error which we are going to be discussing at one point. It's saying that name print is not defined, so it considers this as something else, which I'm going to explain later. So this is what the basic, on a very basic level, this is what syntax is all about. And you should not disturb yourself so much to remember syntax, because the more you use them, to memorize syntax, the more you use syntax, it becomes second nature. So I think don't just put yourself on that, how do I remember how to write? Just have some cheat sheet, which of course I might also discuss in another video, how to create your own cheat sheet and common code that you use every time. And then before you know it, everything becomes second nature. If you type it every day, you use it every day and every day, it's just become normal, like you remember how to write it. So for a beginner, which of course I know maybe some of us are just starting, this is our first code, it's okay to have, how do I remember this? What if I type capital P? Don't worry about that. Everything will be okay. So yeah, for example, now we have written print. Let's assume I want to write another print. I just, of course, shift. I just put enter and I say print again. And I said hello. Let me say hello Python again. Right? And I just say enter. Do you see something? There is sort of like top to bottom approach, because computer is kind of reading each line. This is one line, it like invisibly extend to the end of this line. So that is one line. Then anytime the computer see a new line, which we are going to be explaining later, what happens? It just go to the second line. As you can see, even the line number is also there, 1 2, and it's from top to bottom. I cannot, if I want this to print first, then I need to push it physically up. But of course there is a barrier. There are like exceptions to this. There are some exceptions to this. As you can see now, hello Python. Then when you have conditions, when you have some like logic, like if this is this, do this. We are going to be doing that later, so don't worry so much. So that is about the Python syntax and how computer actually execute programs. It's usually from top to bottom, except if there are some special conditions like the if block and the else block and something like this. So now let us assume that I just want to like do some explanation here. For example, I want to say like, okay, what happened? What should I do? I want to say, okay, this is just a print. This is just a comment. Now let's run this and see what happens. You see, this is just a comment was not like executed, because it's just a comment, because we put the hash. Anytime Python go line by line and it sees hash, it understood that this is just a comment. And a comment is usually for like human, for like programmers, for somebody that want to read your code, and it's good that you put like a clear cut comment in your code so that at least somebody can like understand it. Of course, it's not good to be too much unnecessary comment and okay, I am printing. No, it's not like that. Something that could help the programmer or another colleague to understand your code just at a glance. But then the question is, what if I want to like, my comment is so long, then I need to go to the next line. What happened? That's when I keep typing, then I come here, then I just type, you know, I type, then I come here, then I do this, then I run. You see what happened? It didn't work because this is a new line. As I told you, each line is like the beginning of the line of the code, and Python actually understands this as a new line. So if you want another, you just have to put another hash. You can put a space or you don't put a space, it doesn't matter. Now it works, right? So for example, now let's assume I have really long comment, and of course I don't want to be typing this hash every time. There's another way to go about that. That is what we call DocString. So I will just remove this, and I will call it DocString comment. So how do we represent that? We just use triple quotes. You see, it even give me the 6 one at the same time. It auto-complete it for me. And anything I put in between will just be considered as a comment. It's usually in Python is naturally used to explain like your function and what it does and stuff like this. You can actually print the docstring of a function and see some explanation about this function or the method or this method. But then like you can also use it like this. Just let's, you see, now it doesn't come because it's considered just like a comment. Python read it just like a comment. So you can also use it like this. So this is how to comment in Python. So yeah, so we have discussed commenting, and then let's discuss more about like additional powers of Python. And in terms of arithmetic, it's not only plus and minus that I can do in Python. Of course, I can decide to say, okay, 8 times 4, and that's going to give us 32, of course. And I just type enter. You can see the output. That is 32. So, like, you can do division. You can do any kind of stuff you want to do. You see, you can even do also like raised to the power. Let's say 2 raised to the power 3. You just put 3. Sorry, this is multiplication. If you want to put exponential, then that is of course double. So that is 8. Now you see something really interesting happened. I cannot see 8 divided by 4 again. Why? Because 8 divided by 4, I did not ask it to print. As I told you, computer just take instructions from a programmer. So if you don't tell it to do anything, it doesn't do anything. But the question is that why did the last one print? It prints because it's the last one in that line. Even also if you use your normal interactive, let me open a new one and just take it out. Now we have it there. Good. So if I bring this here now, it's so hard to, okay, I'll make this even bigger. Yeah, so if I should bring this now, good. And of course, as I told you, just type Python. Once you type that, for example, let's assume you say 8 divided by 8 plus 2, 2 raised to the power 3. You see, this just run line by line. It does not even give you a chance to like say, okay, you want to write 2 lines. So this is a little bit different anyways. So this is how this one works. But anyway, let's get back to business. And as I was explaining, if I want this line to also print, I just have to wrap it with a function called print. Don't worry, I will discuss what a function is and stuff like that. But we call this print as a function because of course it has this parenthesis and stuff like that. It can also be a method depending. Let's just go and let's just print it. Now you can see we have 2.0 and we have 8. So this print, and of course I can also still wrap my print here, also wrap here, and that's still also print. So this is like very declarative that I want to print it. But the point is that the last one, even without the print, it will still give you an output. You can see it doesn't have output here, but if I should only print this now, and of course I have output. So it automatically takes the last line and just print it out for you. That is the point. So how do you run this again? Just type shift and enter, and that's how you run each cell. Of course, you can use control. For example, if I use control now, I'm on Mac now, so I don't really know how it works on Windows, and I put control. You can see what happened. It doesn't, like, it just runs normally. But let's assume that I want to create another cell down. How do I do that? I just have to put Alt. You can see now I have another cell down. This is just like a very fast overview of how to use Python, Jupyter Notebook, because I just wanted to get into Jupyter Notebook today. There's no need using these other tools, and because tooling might be very difficult and quite challenging if you're not very careful. And I just deleted it now by selecting it. When you see this blue, and of course I just click D 2 times. So that is that about Jupyter Notebook. As I was saying, so you can use also to make basic arithmetic. And there's something we call modulus. For example, if I put 2 modulus, 9 modulus 2, that's going to give me 1, because modulus only give you the remainder, because 9 divided by 2 is 4 and the remainder is 1. So the modulus is 1. That is what this percentage actually gives you. And we use this a lot in programming. If you want to check if something is divisible, is something like this. If it is like, you know, if it is an even number, if it is like a hard number and stuff like that. But yeah, let's just get a business. So as I was saying, this is what it is all about, and it's just very simple. You can do basic arithmetic as you do normally every now and then. So to make our life easier, there is something we call order of operation. Mind you, I'm just doing like a high level overview of this because it's geared towards the DataQuest syllabus. Of course, at one point, if I have enough time, I can actually create a very more detailed and comprehensive Python fundamental video. But I think for now, this is quite good, and this is quite enough to just follow along if you have actually been studying DataQuest. So it's just a revision. So don't mind if I skip some certain things or I did not remember to mention everything. It's okay. It's just a revision. Anyway, so let's just get a business. So yeah, as I was saying, there's something we call order of operation. Now, if I want to type this, what do? I just put my comment, order of operation. So this is a comment. If I run it now, nothing is going to come out because it's just a comment. It's not being read by Python. So now there's something we call this, I don't know, I think we have this in primary schools. I don't know if it's all everywhere, but it's just like bracket first. Then of course, if you have some multiplication, I mean with off or something, and of course if you have some exponential, that will come first also. And of course, if you have some division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. This is not a very most exhaustive list. I think there are like more exhaustive lists which I can maybe discuss in another video. But this is at least good enough for a very basic order of operation. For example, if I should have, let's assume I have a bracket first, and I say 4 times 5, and I wrap everything in a bracket, right? And I say divided by 4 plus 2. I mean, what do you think this is going to be? What is going to be the answer? Let's see. Why is it 7? Because it's going to start with the bracket first, right? And the bracket here is 4 times 5 is 20, right? Now it follows. You remember I told you something about this BOD something like this. You can see we have the bracket first, then division come later after bracket. So it doesn't, the next thing that has to be solved here is the division. So it will not go here and say 4 plus 2. No, it will rather take this first, and it will just take this first, and it will just like, okay, I have 20 here divided by 4, that is 5. Then of course 5 plus 2, that's going to give you 7. So of course I shouldn't put this, otherwise I can just comment it and stuff like that. So yeah, that is about order of operation. And then it's quite easy, and yeah, that's what we have in this very basic first mission. I think it's completed now. So I'll quickly take it to variables. So I'll say variables and data type. So I think this is the second mission, but anyway, let's just continue. Now there is something about this. I think this is too much. Yeah, you can see I have been, never mind my spelling, I've been typing different kind of stuff. There are some that are actually wrapped in quotation mark. There are stuff that I just wrote like that, especially the numbers. Is because like in Python we have different kind of data types. Of course we have a string, we have float, we have a integer, we have a boolean, we have list, we have dictionary. So like there are different types of like data types, but I think it's really good to at least start with this. So if I want, of course, if I want a long string, what do? I just put my DocString, because this is like very long now. So I'll just quickly put it and wrap it at the back. Good. So if I want it, of course, you see what happened. That's quite interesting. Sometimes also, because it's the last one, what happens? It actually prints it, and it prints just like a string. You can see this is the last line here. If I write something here, let's assume I say 5 times 5 plus 5, 5 plus 5. See what happened? That is 10. It just ignored this. So the reason why it gives you that is because that was the last one, just like what I explained before. So I'll quickly run it again, and you see there's something about this /n. Don't worry, I'm going to explain all those one later, but at least let's quickly discuss all these types of variables. For example, if you have like a name and you put like Python, for example, and you run it, nothing happens, because if I type name now, then of course I can see it. Or I just say print, of course I can say print and name. Yeah, I would explain this, and it's very easy. What do I mean by this? For example, if you decided to like if you decided to like keep some sort of like water in a bucket, what do? Sorry, let's say in a cup, for example. It can be water, it can be tea, it can be some soft drink, it can be anything. That is exactly what this name is standing for. Consider this like entire expression here, like keeping water or keeping tea or keeping sugar or keeping anything in a cup, for example. And that cup is like universal, for example. It can be used to keep water, can be used to keep tea, anything. But then if you put tea there, how do you know that it is a tea? Of course, we already know that it is a cup. That is where the type comes in. So the type is a cup, but the name of the content is Python, for example. In this case, it can be tea, it can be water, it can be anything. So we label it, and because we have said this name equal Python, I'm not saying that like whatever Python is, this is what we call, this equal means assignment. It's not the same like in mathematics. You say if like whatever is equals to this. No, we are not. This is like, it's not an equality here, it's just an assignment. I'm only keeping this variable. As you can see, we call it a variable because it can change. I can decide to say, okay, this is not Python again, it's Pyth, for example. And if I just print it, now we have Pyth. So this is how it works, and that's just the basic of variables. But variable can have different type, as I told you. It can be a string, for example, this is a string. It can also be like a float number. And I say like a float number, for example, and I say like 3.1. I don't know if this works here, but let's see if it works. Float number. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Good. In JavaScript it works, but you cannot put more than one, so I have to print it separately. Print float number. Now we have 3.1. Now float number is just like a number or an integer with decimal place. It's more precise, let's just put it like that. Because for example, you want to see like the time, for example 1.5. Imagine time is just 1, 2, 3. But you want to see what is in between. Is it 1.5 hour, is it 1.4 hour? So also when we program, also there are some data, like for example human being weight, like the centimeter, the height in centimeter. It's okay to have this kind of like some sort of precision to it. It can be 1 decimal place, it can be 2 decimal places, it can be anything. You can even round this number also if you want. But we are going to be getting to the mass method later. Let's just continue. For example, I can also say like weight of a somebody, let's say like position or age. I think that's more like 33, for example, and I just decide to print it, and I say print age. Now we have 33. So now this is like exact somehow. It doesn't have any approximation. I mean any precision, and this is just like an integer. Don't worry, I'll be showing you how to get the types of this type of integer, the type of the variable itself, and we'll use the type operator. But let me quickly discuss all the data type first, then we are going to be going there. So I can say now, what is bool? Bool is just like a boolean type, and boolean is usually, if you have gone to a situation and they said, look, in an exam, choose yes or no. That is what it is here. Is it true or false? Are you telling lie or you are telling the truth? So for example, if I say that, is it like, for example, is somebody rich? That would be true or false, right? True or false. So as you can see, it's even give me this highlighting is thick and whatever. I can also say poor, of course, is false. So this is some sort of like a mutually exclusive situation. You cannot be poor and rich at the same time. It's just one of the two. So I can just say print, of course, rich, can say print poor. Yeah. So if you run this, it gives you true and false. Yes, it's still the same true and false, but of course the data type is actually a boolean. I think I wouldn't want to discuss list now, but we will still discuss it in detail, so we can just quickly discuss the type operator that I was telling you. For example, if you say print and you say type, or for example name, let's see what it's going to give us. So I want to see the type of name now. What does that give us? It gives us a class of string. This is another topic. Class and object and whatever in Python is kind of different. For example, you know, before you build every houses, there are what? There are blueprints. But each house is like a member, or is like a product of those blueprints. That is what a class and object is all about. But we are not going to be discussing that so much now, right now. But what we are talking about is just that this is a string. For example, if I decide to check like poor, for example, and that will give me what? That will give me bool, just like I wrote it there. Or if I want to check like let's say float number, for example, that is going to be a float number, right? So that is how to check. Just use the type operator. It's actually a function. Just call it type, open a bracket, and put a variable name inside it, name or something. So this is how to check it. So you can see we have a string. Yeah, that is that about that. So you use a type operator to check the kind of data type your variable is. And a variable is achieved by giving it a name. Any name, you can call it anything. And of course, you give the type. Is it a string? Of course, I forgot to mention you can also use a double quote here. It still works, but I'm just used to using single quote. Now, as you can see, and if I run it, this still works. It's the string. It can be single quote or double quote. Good. And before I continue on this variable type and how to check it and stuff, there are specific rules for us to name a variable name. Okay, I wrote age, but what if I say it's capital A? Does it still work? Now let us just try to run this. You see, it said these words, capital H, and then of course this is another thing. You see, nothing happened, no error, because it remembers this age, and of course I didn't call this. It's just kept this state because the state has not changed. That is one thing with Jupyter. So in this case, if you see that you're expecting something else that is not come, because I don't have age again, but it's still printing it, because there's a difference between capital A and capital and small letter a. What do? Just go to kernel and just restart and run all, and let's see what happens. Now good, now we have it. Name age is not defined. What did I just do? Whenever you like you have some issues, maybe your output is not what you're supposed to get, just go to kernel and say restart and run all or clear all, depending on what you're doing. You are just basically restarting it anyway. So yeah, that is that about that. You see, it said name age is not defined because of course small a and capital A is not the same, at least in programming. Maybe to us human it's okay, but to computer you have to be very precise. So that is why you have to like settle for what kind of format, what kind of name you want to use, and you have to be consistent. You cannot use capital A there or small letter A there and stuff. But to quickly summarize, when you are naming your variables, you cannot start with a number. For example, now I will change this one back to A. Maybe we should just open a new cell to make our life easier. Variable naming convention. So yeah, for example, if I say one name equals Python, for example, he said invalid syntax because I cannot start with a name, right? I cannot start with a comma, with a minus. No, it doesn't allow. The same, cannot assign to operator. You see? So for example, how do we like which one is the correct? Let me tell you the correct form of name, then other things are not correct. I've told you that you cannot start with a number, but you cannot start with a dash or minus, but you can start with underscore. This is okay. But normally when you use underscore, it means something else in Python, like some very private variable in a class and stuff like that. But don't like, or conventionally if it's just like a normal variable, it's okay to just write it like this. And usually it can be all lowercase, and of course if you're having more than one name, let's say name people or something, or name student, it's okay to concatenate or to join them with underscore. You, of course you write that. If you have like 3 names or some people size or something, yeah, you can write it like this. And then of course some people they write like this. This is like a Pascal case, the one we just wrote with the underscore like this. This is what is called snake case. But then like some people might write this name Pascal is equals to name, but then like this is very much JavaScript oriented like style, so I think this is not very good. So it's better, at least in Python community it will work. Of course if I print, there's even no need to print. If I just say name people or Pascal, this one, it still works. But then like in Python this is not like mostly recommended. So you just use like a underscore between names, and you don't start with a number, or you don't start with the alphabet with a number or with a dash. And of course I think other cases is okay. And then if you are using capital N, or if you are using anyhow you decide to spell it, it has to be the same when you are referencing it or when you are using it. This is what we call referencing it. So that is that about like variables. Now let us assume, because Python is not like strictly, it's not like it's not static typed language. It's a kind of dynamic type language, which means that, for example, I said name Pascal, right? Okay, let me go to the same cell so that you can at least be very sure that we are not name people, for example. And I want to just say, no, it's not Python again. Now it's Jython, for example. I think that's another programming something, Jython also. Now it's Jython, right? And I say name, and I say name people. Now it gives me Jython. What happened? My other name people, which used to be Python, has been updated. It has been overwritten, because I told you this is just like a cup, right? I can decide it's okay. I throw the cup. I throw the water away. Now I have tea inside my cup, and of course it's still having this label. So, but of course, when you are updating, when you are mutating this variable, it's better to be sure that you actually understand what you are doing. And the funniest part of it is that I can decide to make it 2. I can even change the data type entirely. Now it changed, it doesn't matter. Unlike in programming language like C, C++, that you have to say the type int this and this. So this kind of like make programming, especially in development, more like to prevent some subtle bugs here and there. Because imagine this is expected to be a string. Now I've rewritten it to be an integer. Now what happens? It doesn't make any sense, because like there will be some error somewhere, and if you're having a very large code base, it might be so difficult to actually trace where the problem is coming from. So, but yeah, we will do with what we have in Python. It's quite like a very great language, and I don't know, I have not investigated if there is some type, like strict typing whatever for Python also, like we have for JavaScript, like TypeScript and stuff like that. So, but anyway, that is what that is all about. Now, for example, I can convert. So now we'll be discussing converting data types. I can decide to say, okay, I used to have like a variable which actually is a string. Now I want to convert it to a number, and this is very common. For example, when you are like when you got some input from a user, which of course we'll also be discussing in a little while. So we'll also be discussing in a little while. But let's assume I have, for example, number string, and I call it 1, 2, 3, right? If I should print this one now, and I say the type of this, and I say number string, let's see the type, what happened? Okay, so I need to put this one as something. So yeah, name people to, oh sorry, because I have this one. So yeah, it gives us string, right? But for example, I cannot, if I have, let's say I have number string 1, then number string 2, then of course underscore 2, and I say this is like 2, for example, or 3, and I want to like add the two together. I assume they are numbers, and I said number string plus number string 2, right? And I say, for example, I call that result. I add them, then I assign it to this variable now. So I say print result. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 3. That is interesting. It works, right? But is this the answer we are looking for? No. We'll be discussing string concatenation later, but it will still come. 1, 2, 3 plus 3 is not equals to 1, 2, 3, 3. No. But this is what string concatenation does. But if we really want to get the actual number, which is supposed to be 1, 2, 6, what do? We should at least convert this string to integer, for example. And how do you do it? It's very simple. You just come and say int, you wrap it in a bracket. You come here, you say int, wrap it in a bracket, you come here, you say, and you just like print it. Now we have 126. So that is what string and that's what data type conversion is all about. For example, now I can easily now let us check, for example, the type of result. Print type result. That gives us integer, as you can see, because of course the entire thing here is integer, and we assign it to result, and that gives us integer. So now let's assume I want to convert, let's say, a number, for example 1 to whatever, that is a string. I want to convert it to a float. What do? I just wrap it with float. For example, I just say float, and then and I give us 1.2, and that is actually, of course, you can also use the type at the same time, just wrap it around it. That gives you float. So that is how it works. It's quite simple. So for float, that is that about float. For string and for integer, and I don't know if there's something for bool or something, but this is how it works. And of course for list, you can easily convert string to list. This is very important when we are converting some characters to list so that we can loop. So these are just like some like very fast way to do this. Yeah, as you can see, it's already an empty list. So yeah, that is that about that. And of course, you can also like make it an empty dictionary, which we are not going to be discussing now. Now let's quickly discuss some string operations. Nah, don't worry about this. I think maybe I just like yeah, I wouldn't discuss that now. Don't worry, some magic happens. Yeah. So some string operation. We'll be discussing concatenation right now. So as I was telling you, for example, we had num1 number string 1 plus number string 2. And that gives us what? 1, 2, 3. That is wrong, right? We know that is not correct. And that's why we have to convert it. Convert both of the variables into an integer first. Then we had it. We converted it first. Then we had them together. So sometimes this string operation is very important because let's assume that I want to like have like two strings which are like hello Python, for example. Let's say str1 equals to hello, and I have str2 equals to Python, right? And I can easily say from this, I can say greeting, for example. I can say that it's supposed to be str1 plus str2, right? That's supposed to give me okay, let me just log it. Greeting supposed to give me hello Python. Very interesting. You see, nothing. I do not even have a space. Like for a normal human, if you want to have a space, you should do something else. But before I go there, you see what happened. This is more logical, because of course we are not adding two number strings. We are adding like characters or like strings together. So it's vertically turn it into one string. Once you see the beginning, when you see the beginning here and the end here, that means that is just one string, and that is okay, right? So I think my battery is running down, but I have to quickly round up this. So now, how do you actually use this in a more like a normal application? If you want to have the space, you have to just put the space there literally and just say plus. It doesn't still work because this is not a space. This is just like quotation. If you want the space there, just put the space there. Then you have it there, hello Python. Now let's say you have like 20 strings you want to combine together. This could be like so much difficult to achieve. So what do? We use what we call formatted string. So that is what we call formatted string. And how do we write that? Just write your F and write whatever you want to write inside it. And of course, for example, we have string 1 and just put normal space. And just put normal space, and you just put again a curly bracket and string 2. And of course, like let's say formatted string equals this, right? So let's bring it now. Formatted string is basically the same, but now let's assume that I want to write like plus. No, I don't have to write the plus there. I just want to write like something else. Formatted string, just for you to see that is actually coming from the formatted string. Now you see, now we have the formatted string attached to it, so which means this is coming from here. If you want to see this, just type printed, print, and I go now, and I just go now. My battery is really low now. I think I'm going to be stopping here now for the podcast, for the streaming. Thank you so much for joining, and have a good time. Check in for the other part that is coming.